You said earlier that when writing a story, we should consider the collaborative aspect of it all, but how much should we ideally have outlined for the story? I think the most important thing when a new campaign starts is that you have some kind of big concept that interests you, and it doesn't chart out the end game necessarily, but it's some big event that's happening that you'll enjoy mulling over and turning it around and looking at it from every different angle for a period of time. And every person, that's something different. Maybe it's some strange like time slippage conundrum, or maybe it's a political thing and like the king is corrupt and this war is not what it seems, or maybe it's an attack from the deep, from down below, monsters emerging from the ground and nobody knows why. Something like that should probably exist. You can have a lot of things like that, but probably some big threat out there on the horizon. And you want that to exist because then you go, okay, well, if that was happening, here's the regional impact of that. Like if monsters were emerging from the ground, well, probably every single region, every single city would start to like come up with a way to defend themselves, right? Trade roads, like travel, would become actually really arduous, and maybe the king might conscript and say, hey, basically, if you have magic, you have to come under service of the king because we need you to protect everybody from this horrible threat. And so now if you're doing magic, but you're not sort of sanctioned to do it, it's like, hey, wait, why don't you support the effort against these monsters? And you start to look suspicious. And you can bring that down, like you just keep kind of saying, if that was the case, what else would happen? What else would happen? What else would... Because the goal is you want that threat out there on the horizon, whatever it is. All that really matters, though, is that first session. And that first session, you're probably not going to be throwing them into the middle of the big threat. You're probably going to have them in their starting town, or in, on a ship, or arriving to a new location, but it's going to be something small, and you're going to want that crumb, that first crumb in a series of breadcrumbs that's going to lead you to that big crazy threat, whatever it happens to be. But that first session is all that matters. If you don't get that first session out, none of your ideas matter. If you don't get that first session to be fun and engaging and have not feel like you're holding stuff back, but feel like, wow, that's a really cool thing, and I wonder what's just around the corner now because that was so fun and interesting, right? Don't be afraid to use up some good ideas, I guess. To put it another way, everything out there in the world is probably an outline of ideas that are like they're solid, but they're foggy. They can change. And obviously, and everything that's in the session is concrete, and not concrete's the wrong way to put it, but everything in the first session is designed for the players to engage with and have fun, and then you can continue to plan after that first session and respond to the aspects of the game that they latch onto. I think that's where the give and take happens, because if we take the idea of the magic is, you have to work for the king if you have magic, otherwise it's like you're looked at strangely. Well, let's say the party helps, there's some innocuous event, they break up a bar fight or they save some people on the road, and in doing so, somebody important, maybe from a distance, they don't get a clear look, but maybe somebody important sees that your group is using magic and they're not supposed to be, or at least like need to make sure you have a permit for that or whatever. But somebody else, an older mage, pulls the group aside and is like, come with me, hide if you're going to do that. There's intrigue. Now there's something interesting going on, and you've got two factions on two sides, and the party can legitimately side either way. Maybe they say, hey, we should be working with the king to solve this problem. Maybe they say, no, we'll help with it, but not under the thumb of the king. We're going to work more in secret. Depending on where they fall, then that's the part of the story you can develop and feed them more. It's at that point you're sort of like the game is back here on the treadmill and you're up here, and you just have to keep throwing more things at the front for them to kind of run through. and hopefully find more. Is wait, is this ill-advised? Which part? Am I doing a poor job of selling it? If I'm not, if it doesn't seem like it, I mean, what I'm describing is basically how I go about making campaigns. I think it's like it's the most fun way to do it to me, but um I also approach the game as sort of sandboxy, right? Player directed. There are definitely interesting things in the world for them to investigate, but if they have some ideas, they want to go do XYZ, they can do that, right? So your story sort of revolves around a guy who stole a dragon and is causing chaos, havoc. And I was going to introduce him at the end of the first session. Is this ill-advised? I see. I don't think it has to be. I mean, keep in mind too, like when I'm trying to give all the caveats so that you're, you know, any of my advice and experience is sort of cut with how different I am potentially than others, potentially other than different than you. When I'm talking about this like expansive story and taking time to, like, my 2 campaigns that are running right now are like 4 to 5 years long, you know. Um that's not every game. A campaign, depending on how, here's a way to do it. So I'm doing this with a one shot that I'm working on because it's sort of an investigation based one shot, and I took the story of, like, the background story, the discoverable story of the one shot, and I turned it into a series of declarative statements. So, you know, there are 3 people missing in my one shot. You know, here are their names. Here's the nature of how the one person went missing. Here's what this other person has been doing. Here's evidence of the person's research into the other person's missing. Here's the weird creatures. Here's the this, that, all. And I laid all of those out. And it's like each one of these things is something that a player, a party can discover and learn for themselves based on following clues. You can kind of do that with a campaign story by saying, okay, you know, somebody's doing something wild with a dragon. Maybe that's the first discovery. What are the next 5 to 10, right? And then you can sort of build towards that. So it really just depends. Depends on the nature of sort of the rest of the story, and also how long you want to spend expanding on that story. I don't think how I do it isn't like the most extreme example. I mean, there are people out there that have campaigns that are running for, you know, a decade or more. That's super, super outlier stuff, though. That's not the common way people play the game. Still super cool, but it's almost a different beast. Like, I don't know exactly what crazy stuff is going on with the dragon, but if I had that reveal to work toward, I might want to start with the town, the region that's being affected by the dragon, and then the party uncovers the dragon before they know about the guy. So it's like they think that they're about to fight a dragon, but a guy comes out and it's like, wait, hold on, you don't understand, right? So build them up to a moment where they think they understand what's going on. We're stopping this dragon from causing trouble, and then it's like, nope, actually, there's a guy. It's a pet or something. It's like, wait, what the heck is going on here? Like, that can create a moment in the game of sort of questioning, realization, and a fun turn that can be unexpected, maybe.